Hello everybody, welcome or welcome back. My name is Georgia if you are new here, but today I thought we would go through every single book that is on my physical TBR. So I do have every single book that I have yet to read on this TBR cart. There she is in all of her glory. I do also have a few hardbacks that aren't on here as well. I don't know how many I have. I think there's around about 70 to 80, which I know is obviously nowhere near as many as some people might have and like bigger creators and stuff. But also I acknowledge that that is not a normal amount of unread books to have. And one of my biggest reading goals for this year is to read my physical TBR more, because I have books that have been on here for quite a while and I am now officially on a book buying ban, apart from like new releases. And I know that might sound quite counterproductive, but I just mean like obviously Emily Henry's new book comes out this month. The new Jessa Hastings book comes out soon, which I've already pre-ordered. So I have a few new releases that are coming out that will be joining my TBR, but I just mean like I'm not actively going book shopping. There's no real order. I have tried to sort of section them out by genre as much as I can. Like on the bottom, obviously you can't really see the bottom, but I have a mix of like fantasy, literary fiction, a few thrillers, and then mainly this shelf is romance. This shelf is like literary fiction, but on the back is romance. So there's kind of a little bit of organisation, but not much. So let's just get into it. I'm going to actually start with the hardbacks that I have, because we have got 4 hardbacks that I have just not read yet. A lot of these have been on my TBR for so long, and I can't believe that I haven't read some of them. First up, we have Never by Jessa Hastings. I quite literally cannot believe that I'm still sitting here saying that I've not read this book. I don't know what it is, but like, I think because I didn't read it straight away, I just have not got around to it. But I do actually want to try and read this before her new book comes out. Don't know if I'm going to do that, but I would love to have like read everything of hers before the new one. But if you don't know, this is by the author of the Magnolia Park series, which is one of my all-time favourite series ever. I love it so much. And this is a Peter Pan retelling. I just love the way that Jessa Hastings writes. Like, I think the way that she writes in general, obviously like in the Magnolia Parks universe, is so beautiful, and I feel like in a fantasy book that will just like come out even more. So I am like really excited to read this one. I just feel like because maybe it's a hardback and it's separate away from like my TBR cart and the rest of the books that I have, I just kind of almost forget about it. I don't know, but I do really want to get to this one soon. Another one that I just cannot believe that I'm sitting here saying that I've not read is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. So this is a fantasy. I think it's like academic rivals. It's a fantasy. I believe that a lot of the fantasy comes from like a magical sort of quality, and they have like gods or something. They're in the middle of a war and they write like magical letters to each other. I don't really know, but I have heard such good things about this. I feel like I would love it, but I just feel like the second one is supposed to be quite disappointing, and then that's kind of like putting me off going into this one. But I don't know, I have like a feeling that this would actually be a 5-star. So I don't know why I've not got to it yet. Honestly, I'm blaming the fact that they are hardbacks. I just feel like I don't gravitate towards them, which is annoying and maybe like a little bit stupid on my behalf. Then this actually isn't a hardback, but it is huge. I have Babel, I think it is, or Babel by R.F. Kuang. So this one, I honestly don't know what this is about. I feel like in my head, I think that this is a fantasy book, but I don't actually think it is. I'm not really sure, but I believe that this kind of talks about like colonization and themes to do with like racism and race and everything like that. So it does have like important topics. It's just very intimidating to me because it is huge. And then the newest addition actually to my hardback pile, and I think my TBR as a whole, is the new Hunger Games book. This is Sunrise on the Reaping. So this is sort of like a prequel, I think. Like, it's in the same kind of theme as the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but this one follows Haymitch, who I absolutely love. I loved Haymitch in the books when I originally read them as like a preteen. I loved Haymitch in the movies. And I feel like this is probably going to break my heart. Like, I feel like this is going to be really sad. I do want to get to this soon, but I just have so many other books that I want to read that this one is like, I raced to go and get it, but now I don't know when I'm actually going to pick it up. But I have seen pretty good reviews of this one so far. It did only come out last week from when I'm filming this, but already I've seen so many people raving and loving about this. Okay, let's go on to the TBR cart. I'm actually going to start at the bottom, so yous are not really going to be able to see what I'm pulling off, which might be a little bit annoying. The first one that I have is actually an ARC that I received quite a while ago that I honestly just have not got around to reading. I do think it's quite heavy, like it follows quite heavy topics, I believe. But this is Elysian Fields by Twyla Gingrich, I think. I believe that this talks about abortion and that kind of topic of women's reproductive rights, which obviously I feel very strongly about anyways, but I think it kind of touches on that, and I just feel like I don't know, I haven't really like gravitated to pick it up. I feel like it will probably be a very important read, but it's obviously quite different to a lot of the books that I do generally read. But I do want to get to this. I kind of want to read, I believe it's still fiction, like it is still a fictional story, but obviously just touches on real life heavier topics. But I do kind of want to venture a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I feel like this would be a good book to do that with. Then I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is a book that really intimidates me, but I don't quite know why. I believe that it's literary fiction with hints of fantasy and hints of romance maybe. From what I've gathered, she kind of travels through time, but everybody forgets her. And I don't know if maybe she meets somebody that she falls in love with, or she meets somebody that doesn't forget her, but her life is constantly restarting. She's constantly having to move to like the next time period and different people, I believe. But I think this is going to be a book that is just so beautifully written. Also, sorry, there is like dust flying around everywhere because I have like just cleaned my room, and obviously the blinds are open and everything, and I feel like the sunlight is just picking up all of these little bits of dust, so I do apologise about that. But I feel like this book will be so beautifully written, and I do feel like it's going to be one that makes me cry. I do cry at everything, so maybe that means nothing, but I'm excited to get to it. It just kind of intimidates me because I feel like it looks huge. But I believe that Siri and Jenna are actually reading this soon, so I might give this a little buddy read with them. Then I have The Book Thief. Again, this is another book that kind of intimidates me because I just feel like it's almost like a modern classic. It does touch on obviously heavier themes. It's about like the war and Nazi Germany and the whole burning of the books, I believe. I feel like this will be an interesting read. It'll be an important read, but I don't know. It kind of just intimidates me because it's, again, quite large. I need to stop being so scared by chunky books because I feel like once you actually get into them, they don't feel that long. Then we have one of the very few thriller reads that I actually have on my TBR. This is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, who is the author of The Silent Patient. I feel like I read The Silent Patient when I first started getting back into reading, and I did enjoy it. It was like an easy, gripping sort of read, but I don't think this one is supposed to be like as good, or people don't enjoy this one as much, but it's been on my TBR for so long. I think like my mum has read it, my nana has read it. I just kind of need to get around to reading it myself. Another one that has been on my TBR for so long is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I don't know why I don't gravitate towards this book. I think it's like a romance sort of story or literary fiction with romance, but I think it's supposed to be pretty sad. I'm sure my friend Sophie said that this feels like a more YA version of A Little Life. And if you don't know, A Little Life for me, it's one of my favourite books in a weird way, but at the same time it's literally the book that made me cry more than anything ever, and I literally would not recommend that book to anybody. So the fact that she kind of said that this is similar or has a similar vibe puts me off just a little bit, but I do feel like people really love this, and I think it touches on like heavier topics and has sort of like not darker themes, but kind of like, yeah, touches more on things like that. Then a pretty new addition to the TBR is The Body by Stephen King. So if you have watched my last video, I think it will be, which was a book haul, you will probably have seen quite a lot of the books that I am going to show you. But I was basically saying that Stand By Me is one of my favourite films ever, and Stephen King is an author that I have not dabbled into any of his work really, but I really enjoy like movie adaptations of his work. So I do kind of want to venture out of my comfort zone a little bit and pick up some of his books. And I felt like this one would be a good one to start with because I love the film so much. And it is pretty short. Then another thriller, we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. So I have only read one Riley Sager book, I believe, and I didn't love it really. But I feel like this one is maybe a little bit better. It's supposed to have better ratings. I do just love a thriller, considering I don't really pick them up very often. When I do pick them up, I feel like I always enjoy them and I like race through them because obviously the nature of them, they are very gripping and very like compelling to read. But I kind of feel like we're just not in the season for a thriller anymore. Like I enjoy reading a thriller when we're sort of in autumn and moving into the winter, but I do feel like they are also a good like holiday read because you can read it pretty quick. Then another few that are pretty new additions but just scream autumn to me, so I'm probably not going to read these anytime soon. I have The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore and The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. So I have actually read, is it The Christmas Tree Farm? Whichever one of hers is like the Christmassy sort of themed one. I've listened to the audiobook of that. I listened to that last Christmas. I know they are like part of a series, but I don't think they really follow on. They kind of just have the same sort of like cameos from characters. I don't think these are going to be books that I like love. I don't think they're going to be 5-star reads, but I think that they are pretty easy to read, cute sort of romances. And then another one that just screams autumn to me is You Again by Kate Goldbeck. I believe that this book is said to be like if When Harry Met Sally was turned into a book. Like it's set in New York, I believe. They are friends. I believe this is like a friends to lovers sort of read, which I love. I'm such a friends to lovers girly and I love When Harry Met Sally. So I feel like this is just, it's bound to be something that I hopefully really enjoy. Another book that has been on my TBR for so long and I feel like people are probably screaming at me to read is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. So this is book 2 in the Empyrean series, is it called? The second book to Fourth Wing. I read Fourth Wing so much further after the hype than everybody else. Like I think I read Fourth Wing probably like 2 weeks before this book came out. I think I'd pre-ordered this before I'd even read Fourth Wing and I really enjoyed Fourth Wing, don't get me wrong. Like it was a very interesting read and I really enjoyed it whilst I was reading it, but it wasn't like my all-time favourite fantasy book. So then I feel like that kind of put me off going into this one because I had seen people say that they didn't love this book as much, and I thought like, well, if I didn't even give Fourth Wing a 5-star, I'm definitely not going to love this when people that absolutely raved and loved Fourth Wing were disappointed by this, if that makes any sense. I've just heard conflicting things about like the length of this book, the miscommunication, the conflict, things like that, and I feel like a lot of people say that her world building is not the best and like it's almost as if she doesn't quite understand her own world. I don't know. I do want to get to this obviously, and I know that Onyx Storm is now out too, so I do want to read that as well. But I just have other books on my TBR that I would prefer to start before this one. And then one of the only classics that I have on my physical TBR is Little Women. This is my nana's favourite book ever. She absolutely loves it. I have already read this, or at least read parts of it when I was younger, but I don't really remember how the book differs from the movie adaptations. The movie adaptation with Florence Pugh and Timothée Chalamet is one of my favourite movies ever. I love it so much and I just feel like I want to go back and read this book. Moving on to the other side of this bottom shelf, I think it is all fantasy, but I have The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I think this is like YA fantasy that is based off vampires. Honestly, a lot of like the fantasy books that I have no idea what they are about. They're either just books that I've thought were interesting or I've seen people really love. And I am not a big fan of reading the backs of books, so 99% of the time I have no idea what's going to happen, like no idea of tropes or anything like that. Like I like going into them blind, and I feel like I have really been loving fantasy books. Like last year I kind of got more into fantasy as a genre as a whole, so I feel like this year as well I am just gonna keep on sticking to my fantasy reads because I am thoroughly enjoying them. Another vampire one I'm guessing is Filthy Rich Vampire. This is a series, I believe. I don't know if there's maybe like 2 or 3 books in the series, and I have absolutely no idea what this book is about. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be like a human and a vampire. I feel like that's a classic. And I actually haven't read very many vampire romances, like vampire fantasy books. So I feel like that will be an interesting read for me to like dabble my toe into that subgenre. Then I have Fairbound by Sarah L. Arifi. Again, absolutely no idea what this is about. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be about humans, fae, some kind of war or something to do with that. I feel like that's kind of like the general gist of a lot of these fantasy books, and I will eat it up every single time. Then I have the Prison Healer trilogy. I don't know if that's what they are actually called or if the series is called something different. Again, I know absolutely nothing about this series, like genuinely not a clue. I believe it's fantasy, but I don't know if it's about fae, if it's about like magic or anything like that. I have no idea. I don't think that this is going to be like the best fantasy series that I've ever read, but I think it's YA, so I do think it will be like an interesting and easy fantasy series to sort of like just power through. Similar kind of vibes, I have the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. So we have, wait, is this the right order? Legendary, Caraval and Finale. These are like, I don't know if they're like a prequel to the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, which I have read, but I believe that they have a few of the same characters in, and we sort of see little cameos of them in this series. But I don't think, well, I've obviously read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series without reading this, but I'm interested to sort of read this one too and see like which series I prefer and see if there's any sort of like clues and other little like context things I can pick up from reading the series now that I have read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Then I have An Ember in the Ashes. Again, I know nothing about this book. I do apologise if you are like wanting to also know what these books are about, because I have literally zero idea, but I think it's like fantasy romance. Other than that, tropes and everything, no idea. It says on the back that there is like an iron-fisted rule of an empire, so I'm gonna guess that there's gonna be like some sort of conflict, some war, something that we're trying to like resolve, but I have no idea. I'm just kind of like excited to get into fantasy. I feel like they just immerse you so well. Then I have To Kill a Kingdom. This one has been on my TBR for quite a while. It's YA fantasy about a sea queen, I believe, that is like cursed, or the sea queen curses somebody and she has to get like a human heart to go back into like a sea creature. I don't know. Do you ever like explain a fantasy book and you sit and think, I sound insane? And if I was explaining this to anybody that doesn't read fantasy, they will think, what is going on? Why are you reading that book at like 25 years of age? But it's fine. Then I have Assistant to the Villain. So this is like a fantasy, but I think it's like almost comedic. Like it's quite funny, it's quite light-hearted, a cutesy little fantasy romance. So basically our female main character starts working for the villain, and yeah, obviously they're like flirting, there's little bits of banter. I know that there is now a second one to this, I believe. I don't think there's a third as of yet, but this is part of a series, so hopefully if I like this one I'll be able to obviously pick those up. Then the last one that we have on this shelf is Wicked. So I love the theatre production of Wicked, and I love the movie. Obviously, there they are, the queens. So I wanted to pick this up and sort of see how the book differs from, number one, the stage production, and number two, how it will be then different to the movie adaptation too, before the second part of the movie comes out. I have heard that this is like quite dark, significantly darker than like the stage production and the movie. Okay, so going on to this shelf. I think all of this shelf is romance. I'm gonna try and like power through some of these because I feel like I have been talking for ages. But we have Sweet Love and Country Roads. This is a small town country romance. I don't know if it's like a cowboy. I feel like it's gonna give like cowboy and city girl kind of vibes, or if it's just kind of like based in a small town, country, ranch kind of vibes. I have no idea. But I love myself a cowboy romance. I love a country setting. I love a small town. I feel like it just gives the best vibes. Then I have Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I've only read one Catherine Center book, which was The Bodyguard, and like I enjoyed that. It was a cutesy sort of rom-com, not my favourite book by any means, but it was very easy to read, and I feel like that will kind of be the same as this. I feel like when we go into like the spring summer, I love like an easy to read 300-page rom-com. I have 3 Abby Jimenez books on my TBR. So Abby Jimenez is an author that every single book that I've read from her has been like a 5-star. I have only read Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer, so like her newer books, but I have absolutely loved every single one of them. I know that her older books are not like as widely loved, or people don't feel as strongly about them as her newer ones, but I do still want to read them because I just feel like she is such an easy to read author. So I have The Friend Zone, Life's Too Short, and the Happy Ever After playlist. I believe that these are kind of like interlinked in the same way that her newer books are, with like sort of reoccurring characters, and they are all sort of connected in one way or another. Then I have The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. So this is obviously the author of Fourth Wing, which is crazy to me. Like obviously authors can dabble in different genres and stuff, but it's kind of crazy that she had this before she had Fourth Wing. But I think that this is a romance, but it kind of follows a granddaughter and her grandmother and their sort of romances. I think it's meant to be pretty sad too, so that's always a fun time. Then we have Consider Me by Becca Mack. I think this is spicy. It's a hockey romance, I believe, and I know that it's part of a series. I don't know if they are all like all sports romance, all hockey romance. I have literally no idea, but I've heard good things about this. I feel like people really love this book and this series, so I am excited to get to it. Next up we have Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. So this is the sequel to Better Than the Movies, which I really enjoyed. It's like a YA romance, very cliche, very cringe, but very, very easy to read. However, I have seen very conflicting things about this. A lot of people feel like it was unnecessary, it made the characters kind of unlikable, and just, yeah, they like wasn't needed. So I don't know, I feel like it will just be like a book that's pretty easy to read. Whether I feel strongly about it, either way, I have no idea. Then I have 2 Tara Jewett books. I have Savory and The Co-op. I feel like this one I've heard better things about. They are both obviously romances. I have only read one of her books up to now, I believe, and it like wasn't my favourite. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, but I didn't love it. But I feel like I have heard good things about this one. Like I remember seeing a lot of 5-star reviews when this first came out. And again, I just feel like spring summer is a time when I love reading rom-coms. So I'm excited to sort of like dive into a few new authors as well. Then I have Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. So this is the 3rd book, I think, in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I cannot believe that I've not read this yet because I was so excited for this when it came out, but I just feel like I have kind of gravitated towards other books rather than this one. But it's a small town cowboy romance, follows like the same sort of family and interlinking friends and things like that, which I love. Kind of very similar vibes to Chestnut Springs, which I love as well. Then I have First Down by Grace Riley. This is a sports romance. I think maybe it's football, and that's all I know about it. I feel like again this will be like a easy to read, spicy but not too smutty, like rom-com with that college sports vibe. Next up we have 3 Ali Hazelwood books. So Ali Hazelwood for me is an author that I don't love but I don't hate. I have a few books by her that I've really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Bride. I enjoyed Deep End, but it wasn't my favourite. But then Love Theoretically and The Love Hypothesis I didn't enjoy all that much. But I have Checkmate, which is her first YA book, I believe. This is like a chess-centred romance. Then we have Not in Love, which I believe is a little bit spicier, a little bit smuttier. And then we have Love on the Brain, which is in that same sort of genre too, the women in STEM kind of thing. Another cowboy romance, we have Train in the Heart by Paisley Hope. So this follows on from Holding the Reins, which I did enjoy. I think this follows the brother out of the first book. I can't really remember, but I love a cowboy romance. If you are new here, it is like one of my favourite subgenres of romance. Like, I just love them. There's something about the country vibes, there's something about the cowboys. I'll eat it up every single time. 2 Annabelle Monaghan books, we have Same Time Next Summer and Nora Goes Off Script. So I read Summer Romance last year and absolutely fell in love with her writing style, the sort of like way that she talked about topics, the overall vibe of the books, how yes it was romance but it very much was told through like a women's fiction kind of lens. I just loved it and I ran to go pick these 2 up, but I've like been waiting for the spring vibes, so I do want to get to these ones soon because her new book comes out, I want to say April or May. So maybe I would like to read at least one of these before her new one comes out. Then we have You With The View by Jessica Joyce. So I have read The X-Files and I absolutely loved that. I thought that the way that she sort of wrote that couple, and I felt very seen by the characters. So I'm excited to read this as well and see if it is like a similar vibe, or if that one just like resonates with me more, or if her as an author is somebody that I really enjoy and really like her writing. Okay, so on this side, I did not realise how long it was going to take me to go through all of these books. Again, more romance, I believe, apart from maybe this one. So we have The Museum of Ordinary People by Mike Gale. This one, I don't actually know what this is about. It says that a girl is moving, so she puts all of her things into this like storage thing, but it's full of items from ordinary people's lives, and I have a feeling it'll just be like a very wholesome sort of heartwarming read about like mundane things and like the beauty of being human. Another one that I think is more of like a literary fiction with hints of romance but kind of focuses on like human qualities, if that makes sense, is Mr. Loverman. So from what I've gathered, this one is about a man that has been in the closet for years and years and years. He's like 70 or 80. He's been married, he has children, and he's either been closeted or he has been like in a secret relationship. I can't remember like which one it kind of focuses on, but I think this is about him sort of accepting that part of himself and coming to terms with that part of himself. So talking about that, and also talking about the British Caribbean community, I believe, and how that sort of ties in with sexuality and culture and all things like that. My friend Sophie read this and she said that it is really sad but in like a heartwarming way, and she said that she thinks I would love this. So I am excited to get to this one. Then we have From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This is like a figure skating romance, enemies to lovers, slow burn. Mariana Zapata is like coined the queen of slow burn, but I have never read any of her books. So I'm excited to get to this one. I feel like I am very much loving a slow burn at the minute. Like, I want to get to here before they have even like held hands. One that is apparently going to be a bit of a tearjerker, we have Under the Sycamore Tree. I don't really know anything about this apart from I believe that the main character has like an illness, or her sister has an illness and her mum has died. Her dad is like, I don't know, she is going through a lot, and then it says that she meets the guy with the sad eyes. I feel like we're not really setting ourselves up for a happy, positive read here. Another one that's a little bit of a tearjerker is The Way I Used to Be. So this one kind of focuses on themes of sexual assault, and I think it's kind of about a girl that has experienced that and is going through that, and sort of her coming out the other side of that, and how she is navigating her new, not her new life, but the person she is after that. This has been on my TBR for a while, but I just feel like it's going to be quite a hard hitting read, and I've just never mentally been prepared for it, to be honest. Another sports romance, we have The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. So I believe that this follows on from, it's either like the off-campus series or the other sports romance series. This follows the daughter of one of the main characters out of that series, but I haven't actually read that series. How many times am I going to say series? I haven't read that, so I'm sort of like saving this for when I have, otherwise I feel like it's kind of going to be wasted on me a little bit. Then we have The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. So I read Love and Other Words and I loved that book, but then I've read a few of their other books and haven't really loved them. I feel like they are like easy to read rom-coms, but just not necessarily books that I'm like going to think about. And I don't know, I feel like I've kind of moved away from the rom-com genre, and I just love like a deeper romance with yearning and emotional depth. Don't get me wrong, like I do still love a book like this. I just feel like I'm not really gravitated towards them as much as I previously was. Then we have The Switch by Beth O'Leary. So this is the author of The Flat Share, which I've read and I did enjoy. So I don't know what this one is about. Oh, she participates in a life swap. So I feel like this is kind of going to give the holiday vibes. And yeah, I just think this will be like an easy, light-hearted sort of romance. Then we have Most of All You by Mia Sheridan. So I think that this is about a stripper, and she has been through like she's had a pretty hard time, and some guy comes in, and yeah, it's about sort of like her letting her guard down and getting back involved and getting herself back out there, I think. I don't know, I really need to like think or even research books before I speak, because I could quite literally be saying the most nonsense ever and I would have no idea. Then we've got The Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. So this is the first book in the Brutal Birthright series. It's a mafia romance, I believe, sort of following rival families and different siblings of those families, I think. So I'm pretty sure that this is like arranged marriage and obviously has that mafia trope. Then we've got The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This one is like a small town, or like a small town boy, big city girl. They are from the same hometown. She goes back for some reason, and it's to do with sort of like if they're gonna be able to make it work, are their lives on different paths, all of that kind of thing, which I kind of love. I love like when there's almost like that little bit of yearning and you don't know if it's gonna work out, if they can make it work, things like, I don't know, I just love it. Then we have Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This is the first book in the Lakefront Billionaires series. This, for me, I bought it when it first came out and I've just never felt compelled to read it. I didn't love what's the fine print, whatever that series is. I read that and then didn't read the rest of the series because I didn't love it. And I just don't know if her writing is for me. I've also read her Formula One series, whatever that one is. I think I got like 2 books into that and didn't love that either. So I just don't know if she is the author for me. Okay, we are almost there, guys. Up on this top shelf, we have some more romance and some fantasy and literary fiction, I believe. So we have If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nowlin. This is the sequel, I guess, to If You Had Been With Me, which is like coined as a very sad, a very emotional sort of romance. But me, somebody that cries at literally everything, I actually did not even find it that sad. But obviously like it kind of is, but it just didn't make me cry like I thought it was going to. But this basically follows the guy's POV from that book. I'm not going to say too much at risk of spoiling it, but yeah. Then I have 2 books by Hannah Bonham Young. So this is the author of Out on a Limb, which I absolutely loved. We have Next of Kin and Next to You. I believe that these kind of follow on from each other or have similar characters. Like, you know, when it's like a series and you see the characters in the different books, I think. I have absolutely no idea what they are about, but I just loved her writing style. I loved the way that she wrote the emotional connection in Out on a Limb, and that had tropes that I like normally don't pick up, but the way that she wrote them was just chef's kiss. Then I've got Morbidly Yours. So this is a book that is not going to be on my TBR anytime soon, just because it is giving Halloween spooky vibes. Literally no idea what this is about, apart from, oh, he's in a family undertaking business. Then we have Unsteady. I raced to add this to my TBR because I've heard people say that this is similar to Finding and Keeping 13, like that this couple reminds them of Johnny and Shannon. And if you don't know, they are one of my favourite couples. That is literally my favourite book series ever. I believe it's like emotional, it's deep, it has that sort of like trauma to it, and it centres around a sports team, I believe, or like they are at university and they both do sports. So I am eager to sort of see what I think of this one. Then I have First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. So this is a relatively new release. I have seen rave reviews about this book, like people saying it is one of their all-time favourite contemporary romances, like this is how contemporary romance should be done, it's on the same level of like Emily Henry. That is high praise, like that is high praise, and I'm so excited to get to this one. Then 2 by Elsie Silver, we have Wild Side and Wild Eyes. These are part of the Rose Hill series. I have read Wild Love and I did enjoy it. I didn't love it as much as I loved Chestnut Springs, but also I didn't love the first book of Chestnut Springs, so I feel like I can't judge it too much off the first book. But I am excited to get to this. It's a small town sort of romance. All of them are single dad tropes, which I love. I eat up every single time, and I just love Elsie Silver's writing. Then we've got a few literary fiction books. So I have The Unmaking of June Farrow. I really have no idea what this is about, but I think it's literary fiction and I think it's quite sad. That's all I know on this one, but like the cover is gorgeous, and I feel like again it's one of these books that kind of gives me similar vibes to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, that is just going to be like so beautifully written and so not sad, but like kind of sad. Following with that vibe, we have On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I believe that this is about an immigrant family, or like a first generation immigrant son, and it sort of dives into his family's history in Vietnam, I believe. So I feel like this is going to be quite a heart-wrenching read. 2 books by Coco Mellows. I have Cleopatra and Frankenstein and Blue Sisters. This is an author that I have like wanted to dabble in, but for some reason it just intimidates me. But I've heard such good things about like both of these books, but especially Blue Sisters. I feel like I saw so many 5-star reviews of people saying that they loved it. Okay, last up. This side is a lot of literary fiction. We have a few fantasy books, which we will start with actually. So I have the first 2 books of the Crescent City series by Sarah J Maas. We have House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. I have absolutely no idea what these are about. I believe that they are like a modern urban fantasy, and yeah, that's literally it. I love ACOTAR. I love Throne of Glass so much, and I really do just want to sort of complete the Massiverse. I don't have the 3rd book in the series just because I do want the paperback to like match these, but obviously they are huge anyway, so I think it will be a while before I read these and I need the 3rd one. But it is like one of my biggest goals this year to read or finish or start the Crescent City series. I have a few books by Kristen Hanna. So my current read is actually The Nightingale, that's why it is not in this pile, but she is an author that I feel like recently has got so much hype for sort of like writing important stories. I think she sort of is a historical or like women's fiction that does focus on themes of like womanhood, sisterhood, girlhood, all things that I love, and I feel like her books are supposed to be quite sad, quite heart-wrenching. I have Firefly Lane, which I hear everybody say is just so important about friendship and girlhood and that sort of vibe. Then we have The Great Alone and The Women. So I am very excited to get into more of her books. Then I have 2 by Mitch Albom. We have Tuesdays with Morrie and The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. These books, I think are fiction. I think this one is fiction, this one is non-fiction, but they are like almost life lessons. And I feel like these, again, are books that you read and sort of really make you appreciate like the beauty in being human, appreciating the mundaneness of life and appreciating the little things. So I'm excited to read these. Obviously they are pretty short, so I might kind of read these alongside another book. But I've just heard such good reviews about these, and I feel like they're gonna, I don't know how to explain it, they're gonna kind of leave you with that like nostalgic, heart hurting kind of vibe, but like you're almost glad for it. A very rogue book. If you have watched my last book haul, I bought this for my future child. It's called The Last Bear, and it is basically about the last polar bear that meets a girl that is in the Arctic. And I wanted to read this to my future child, so it is like on my physical TBR for me to read too. The writing is huge. It's obviously like a children's book. I just feel like it would be nice for me to read too. Then we have 2 books by Fredrik Backman. Fredrik Backman is literally one of my favourite authors. I love his writing style so much, and I feel like his books are just so beautifully written. So I have the last book in the Beartown series, which I love, and have been putting this book off because I'm kind of scared for it. But this is The Winners. I feel like I talk about Beartown all of the time, but it follows like a small hockey town, and I feel like it just, I don't even know how to explain it. It kind of talks about like what it means to be human, what it means to be a woman, to be a girl, and those kind of themes following this town and all the different characters in it and their character development, their lives, and his writing style is just insane. And then I also have Anxious People, which I believe is sort of like about a bank robbery or like a hostage sort of situation, but it follows, again, loads of different characters, loads of different people, and I feel like the way that he writes different people is just unreal. Like, I love it so much. Okay guys, and then the last book that we have on the physical TBR is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I know nothing about, oh, they are my bookmarks when I bought it in Dublin, but I know nothing about this book. I have read 3 of Sally Rooney's books, with Normal People being my favourite because of course it is, but when this one came out I feel like I heard quite good things about it. She's obviously like, she has a very unique writing style, and I feel like the way that she writes couples and the way that she writes people is again pretty unique. But she's kind of like an author that I don't know where I sit with, because I loved Normal People, but I didn't really love Conversations with Friends, and I didn't really love, is it Beautiful World? Where Are You? So I'm not quite sure where I sit with her. Hopefully I will love this one. I think this cover and everything is stunning, and I do like the way that she writes. I just haven't necessarily loved any of her other books other than Normal People. So that is everything that is on my physical TBR. I feel like this has been a very long one, so if you are still here, well done. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I am going to be prioritising obviously my physical TBR and sort of like shopping my physical TBR a little bit more. So if there are any books in particular that you want to see me read, please do let me know, and let me know which ones you recommend and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.